Hey, everyone. Welcome to Storytelling Time, the place where every story comes alive. If you love getting lost in thrilling tales, gripping mysteries, and epic adventures, you're in the right spot. I'm your storyteller, and here, we don't just tell stories, we bring them to life. Whether it's fantasy, mystery, horror, or even a bit of comedy, we're all about immersion. So grab a snack, get comfy, and prepare for a journey that'll keep you on the edge of your seat. Trust me, you won't want to miss a single chapter. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and join the Storytelling Time family. Let's dive into the stories that await, starting now. The Stone Guardian had stood sentinel for longer than any could remember. Its moss-covered form was a testament to the relentless passage of time. Lichen painted its surface in a mosaic of greens and yellows, blurring the once sharp lines of its ancient craftsmanship. It had witnessed countless seasons, weathered storms that threatened to tear the world asunder, and felt the slow creep of the numbing winters the elders spoke of in hushed tones. They told tales of guardians who never faltered, their duty an unbreakable vow etched into their very being. From her perch high in the emerald canopy, Yuna surveyed the scene below. Her keen eyes, sharp as any predator's, focused on the colossal dome that dominated the landscape. It was a place of both wonder and trepidation, a relic of the old ones, a civilization lost to the mists of time. The dome structure, half swallowed by the encroaching jungle, pulsed with an energy that hummed in the very air. Go now. Quickly, Yuna signaled to Kubo, her voice a low, urgent whisper that carried on the wind. Kubo, his brow furrowed with a mixture of excitement and apprehension, nodded in acknowledgement. He adjusted the pouch at his hip, its hastily sewn flap threatening to give way and spill its precious cargo of fruit. He hadn't been as meticulous as Yuna in its crafting, a fact that often earned him her gentle scolding. They moved with a practiced grace, a symphony of motion honed by years of navigating the dense, verdant labyrinth of their home. They swung effortlessly through the dense network of vines and branches, their lithe bodies moving with an almost liquid fluidity. The Stone Guardian, oblivious to their presence, remained steadfast in its eternal vigil. Kubo, ever the impetuous one, occasionally lagged behind, his attention caught by some fleeting distraction, a brightly colored bird, a peculiar insect, the tantalizing aroma of a ripening fruit. Yuna, her patience wearing thin, motioned for him to hurry, her movements sharp and insistent. The risk of detection was too great to indulge in leisurely diversions. Their journey led them to a colossal tree, its roots entwined with the very foundations of the ancient dome. The ancient builders, in their hubris or perhaps their wisdom, had incorporated the living tree into their, creating a bizarre fusion of nature and artifice. The conflict between the organic and the constructed had created a narrow passage, a slender opening in the dome's imposing facade. A shiver of trepidation ran down Yuna's spine as she peered into the inky blackness beyond the opening. Even from the outside, the oppressive darkness within was palpable, a suffocating void that seemed to swallow all light. Are you sure about this? Kubo's voice was uncharacteristically subdued, his usual bravado replaced by a nervous uncertainty. Yuna hesitated for a fleeting moment, her gaze drawn back to the imposing figure of the Stone Guardian. It stood as a silent sentinel, its inscrutable gaze fixed on some distant horizon. What secrets did it hold? What stories could it tell? We've come this far, Yuna said, her voice firm despite the tremor in her heart. We have to see what's inside. With a deep breath, she stepped into the darkness, her hand outstretched, feeling for purchase in the unseen abyss. Kubo, his face a mask of trepidation, followed close behind, the rustling of his poorly secured pouch echoing in the oppressive silence. The dome loomed behind them, its silhouette fading into the gloom as they ventured deeper into the unknown. The darkness was absolute, a suffocating blanket that pressed in on them from all sides. Yuna moved slowly, her senses heightened, relying on touch and smell to navigate the unseen terrain. The air was thick with the musty odor of decay and the faint, metallic tang of something ancient and unknown. Kubo, his initial trepidation giving way to a nervous energy, fumbled behind her, his hands outstretched, occasionally brushing against the cold, slick walls. "Careful," he muttered, his voice barely a whisper. "I can't see a thing." Yuna pressed on, her fingers tracing the contours of the rough-hewn passage. The walls were uneven, scarred with strange symbols and indentations that seemed to writhe in the absence of light. She couldn't decipher their meaning, but they radiated a sense of immense age, a silent testament to the passage of countless years. As they ventured deeper, the darkness began to relent, replaced by a faint, ethereal glow that seemed to emanate from the very walls themselves. The strange symbols flickered with an inner light, casting eerie shadows that danced and twisted around them. "What is this place?" Kubo breathed, his voice filled with a mixture of awe and unease. Yuna didn't answer. She was too captivated by the spectacle unfolding before her. The passage opened into a vast chamber, its ceiling lost in the gloom high above. The air thrummed with a palpable energy, a silent symphony that resonated deep within her bones. And then she saw them. In the center of the chamber were the spheres. They hung suspended in the air, defying gravity, their surfaces shimmering with an otherworldly luminescence. They were globes of varying sizes and colors, some as small as her hand, others as large as the trees of the forest. They pulsed with a soft, light, casting the chamber in a kaleidoscope of hues. Kubo stared, his mouth agape. He had never seen anything like this before. It was as if the stars themselves had been plucked from the heavens and brought down to earth. "What are they?" he whispered, his voice filled with a childlike wonder. Yuna approached one of the spheres, her hand outstretched, her fingers trembling slightly. It was a deep, vibrant blue, the color of the twilight sky. As she touched it, a jolt of energy surged through her body, a sensation both exhilarating and terrifying. The sphere hummed beneath her touch, and a series of images flashed across its surface, visions of swirling galaxies, of distant worlds bathed in the light of alien suns, of structures that dwarfed anything she had ever imagined. The visions were fleeting, ephemeral, but they left an indelible mark on her mind. A sense of wonder, of awe, of the sheer immensity of the universe, filled her heart. She felt a connection to something vast and ancient, something that transcended her understanding. Kubo, drawn by the spectacle, moved closer, his eyes wide with fascination. He reached out to touch a smaller sphere, a vibrant green one, and gasped as a similar surge of energy coursed through him. It's like the world is singing," he stammered, his voice filled with a strange elation. As they explored the chamber, their initial trepidation gave way to a sense of wonder and discovery. They moved among the spheres, touching them, feeling their energy, marveling at the visions they evoked. But beneath the wonder, a sense of unease lingered. Who had created these spheres? What was their purpose? And why had they been left here, forgotten, for so long? The Chamber of Spheres became their sanctuary, a place of refuge from the familiar world outside. Yuna and Kubo spent hours there, losing themselves in the mesmerizing glow of the spheres and the visions they revealed. Yuna, driven by an insatiable curiosity, sought to understand the purpose of the spheres. She would spend long periods in quiet contemplation, her brow furrowed in concentration as she tried to decipher the cryptic messages embedded within the visions. She saw glimpses of advanced technology, of cities that stretched towards the heavens, and of beings that seemed to possess powers beyond human comprehension. Kubo, on the other hand, was more interested in the immediate experience. He reveled in the raw energy of the spheres, delighting in the sensations they evoked. He would leap and dance among them, his laughter echoing through the chamber, his movements as fluid and graceful as the light that pulsed around him. One day, while Yuna was immersed in a particularly intense vision, she stumbled upon a recurring symbol, a spiral of energy that seemed to pulse with life. It appeared in different contexts, woven into the fabric of galaxies, etched onto the surfaces of strange machines, and even embedded within the very structure of living beings. "Kubo, look at this," she called out, her voice filled with excitement. "This symbol, I've seen it everywhere." Kubo, who had been engrossed in a playful game of tag with the smaller spheres, bounded over to her side. He gazed at the swirling spiral, his head tilted in curiosity. "What does it mean?" Yuna shook her head, her eyes filled with a mixture of wonder and frustration. "I don't know, but I think it's the key to understanding all of this." Driven by their shared desire to unravel the mystery of the spheres, Yuna and Kubo began to work together, pooling their knowledge and insights. Yuna's analytical mind and insatiable curiosity complemented Kubo's intuitive nature and boundless energy. They spent days meticulously documenting their findings, sketching the symbols and patterns they observed, and recording the visions they experienced. They discovered that each sphere seemed to resonate with a different aspect of the universe, revealing a different facet of its grand design. As they delved deeper into the mystery, they began to realize that the spheres were more than just passive repositories of information. They were active, dynamic entities, capable of interacting with their minds and influencing their perceptions. One evening, as Yuna sat in quiet meditation, surrounded by the soft glow of the spheres, she felt a presence, a consciousness that seemed to emanate from the very heart of the chamber. It was a subtle sensation, a gentle whisper in the back of her mind, but it was undeniable. "Who's there?" she murmured, her voice barely audible. A voice, ancient and resonant, echoed in her mind. "We are the keepers," it said. "We have been waiting for you." The revelation of the keepers sent a shiver of awe and trepidation through Yuna. She had always felt that there was something more to this place, a deeper purpose beyond the mesmerizing beauty of the spheres. Now, it seemed, her intuition had been confirmed. Kubo, sensing the shift in Yuna's demeanor, approached her with a concerned expression. "What is it? What did you hear?" Yuna hesitated, unsure how to explain the disembodied voice that had echoed in her mind. I heard a voice," she said finally. "It said they are the keepers, and that they have been waiting for us." Kubo's eyes widened in disbelief. "Keepers? Waiting for us? Who are they? What do they want?" Yuna shook her head, her brow furrowed in thought. "I don't know. But I think we need to find out. They must know the purpose of the spheres, the meaning of the visions." Driven by a renewed sense of purpose, Yuna and Kubo sought to communicate further with the keepers. Yuna, with her gift and her ability to delve deep into her own consciousness, became the primary conduit, her mind reaching out to connect with the ancient presence. Days turned into weeks as they explored the hidden depths of the chamber, searching for clues, for any sign of the keepers. They discovered hidden passages, chambers filled with strange devices, and murals that depicted scenes of a civilization far more advanced than their own. The murals told stories of beings who had mastered the forces of nature, who had traveled among the stars, and who had possessed knowledge that was both wondrous and terrifying. They saw images of the spheres being created, of cities powered by that seemed to flow from the very fabric of the universe, and of a cataclysmic event that had brought it all to an end. As Yuna pieced together the fragments of history revealed in the murals, she began to understand the true significance of the spheres. They were not merely objects of beauty or sources of wonder, they were repositories of knowledge, tools of immense power, and a legacy of a civilization that had reached for the stars and fallen. The keepers, it seemed, were the last remnants of this fallen civilization, their consciousnesses bound to the spheres, their wisdom preserved for a time when someone worthy would come seeking answers. And now, that time had come. One evening, as the spheres pulsed with an intense light, the keepers spoke to Yuna again, their voices resonating not just in her mind but in the very air around them. "The time has come, children," they said. "The knowledge must be passed on. The fate of your world, and many others, hangs in the balance." They revealed that the cataclysm that had destroyed their civilization was not a natural disaster, but a consequence of their own hubris, their own reckless pursuit of power. They had unlocked secrets that were not meant to be disturbed, and in doing so, they had unleashed a force that threatened to consume all of existence. The spheres, they explained, were created as a safeguard, a way to preserve their knowledge and prevent the same mistakes from being repeated. But now, the time was running out. The same darkness that had consumed their world was stirring again, and only Yuna and Kubo, with their unique connection to the spheres, could stop it. The keeper's words hung heavy in the air, filling Yuna and Kubo with a profound sense of responsibility. The fate of their world, and others, rested on their shoulders. It was a burden they had never imagined carrying, yet they knew they could not turn away. "What do we need to do?" Yuna asked, her voice filled with a mixture of determination and trepidation. The keepers explained that the darkness they spoke of was a force that existed outside of time and space, a primordial entity of chaos and destruction. It had many names, many faces, but its essence was always the same: to unravel the fabric of existence and plunge the universe into eternal oblivion. Their civilization, the keepers revealed, had managed to seal this darkness away, but their methods were flawed, their understanding incomplete. The seal had weakened over time, and now the darkness was stirring once more, its influence spreading like a creeping poison. To stop it, Yuna and Kubo had to journey to the heart of the darkness, to the place where it was anchored to reality. There, they had to use the power of the spheres to reseal it, to confine it once more to its eternal prison. "But how do we get there?" Kubo asked, his voice filled with a practical concern. "Where is this place?" The keepers showed them a vision, a glimpse of a desolate realm beyond the stars, a place of twisted landscapes and eternal night. It was a place of immense power, a nexus point where the boundaries between dimensions blurred. "It is a place between worlds," the keepers said, "a realm of pure chaos. Only those who have mastered the spheres can hope to navigate its treacherous currents. The journey would be perilous, fraught with unimaginable dangers. They would face trials that would test their courage, their strength, and their very understanding of reality. They would have to confront their deepest fears and make choices that would determine the fate of countless worlds. "We will guide you," the keepers promised. "We will lend you our strength and our wisdom. But ultimately, the success of this mission will depend on you." Yuna and Kubo looked at each other, their faces etched with a mixture of awe and determination. They were young, inexperienced, and thrust into a role they had never been prepared for. But they were also resilient, resourceful, and bound by a connection that transcended the ordinary. "We will do it," Yuna said, her voice firm and unwavering. "We will stop the darkness, no matter the cost." Kubo nodded in agreement, his eyes shining with a fierce resolve. "We are ready," he said. "We will not fail." And so, with the guidance of the keepers and the power of the spheres, Yuna and Kubo embarked on their perilous journey, venturing into the unknown, carrying the hopes of countless worlds on their shoulders. The fate of the universe rested in their hands. The first step of their journey was fraught with peril. The keepers warned them that the passage between worlds was unstable, a chaotic flux of and dimensions. To navigate it, Yuna and Kubo had to attune themselves to the frequencies of the spheres, to become conduits of their power. They began a series of intense training exercises, guided by the keepers' disembodied voices. They learned to control the flow of energy within their bodies, to harmonize their movements with the rhythm of the spheres. They meditated for hours, their minds reaching out to connect with the ancient consciousnesses that resided within the crystalline orbs. Kubo, with his innate connection to the spheres, proved to be a quick study. He moved with a newfound grace and fluidity, his body resonating with the sphere's energy. He could summon bursts of power, manipulate the very fabric of space around him, and even glimpse into the shifting currents of the interworldliness. Yuna, with her analytical mind and unwavering determination, struggled at first. The chaotic nature of the interworldliness clashed with her desire for order and understanding. But she persevered, pushing herself beyond her limits, gradually mastering the intricate techniques required to navigate the treacherous currents. As they progressed, they discovered that each sphere possessed unique properties, each resonating with a different aspect of reality. The blue sphere granted them insight into the flow of time, the green sphere allowed them to communicate with the living world, and the red sphere offered glimpses into the realm of raw energy. They learned to harness these properties, to weave them together into a symphony of power that could protect them from the dangers of the interworldliness. They faced trials that tested their courage and their resolve, battling strange entities formed from pure chaos, navigating landscapes that defied logic and reason, and confronting their own deepest fears. One trial forced them to confront their pasts, to relive their most painful memories. Yuna had to confront the loss of her parents, the grief and loneliness that had haunted her for so long. Kubo had to face the shame of his impulsiveness, the times when his actions had hurt those he cared about. They emerged from these trials scarred but stronger, their bond forged in the crucible of shared pain and resilience. They learned to rely on each other, to trust in their unique strengths, and to draw power from their connection. Finally, after weeks of arduous training, the keepers deemed them ready. The time had come to embark on the final, most perilous leg of their journey, the descent into the heart of darkness. Standing before a shimmering portal that swirled with chaotic energies, Yuna and Kubo exchanged a look of grim determination. They knew the dangers that lay ahead, the horrors they would have to confront. But they also knew what was at stake. The fate of the universe rested on their shoulders, and they would not falter. With a deep breath, Yuna stepped into the portal, Kubo close behind. The interworldliness swallowed them whole, and they were gone, venturing into the abyss, ready to face the darkness that threatened to consume all that they held dear. The interworldliness was a realm of pure chaos, a place where the laws of physics and reality held no sway. It was a swirling vortex of energies and dimensions, a constantly shifting landscape of impossible geometries and phantasmal entities. As Yuna and Kubo ventured deeper into this chaotic realm, they were buffeted by waves of raw energy that threatened to tear them apart. They had to rely on their training, on their mastery of the spheres, to create a shield of harmonious energy around themselves, a bubble of order in the heart of chaos. The landscape around them twisted and turned, morphing from one bizarre form to another. They traversed mountains made of solidified light, crossed rivers of liquid shadow, and navigated forests of crystalline trees that sang with otherworldly melodies. They encountered strange beings, creatures of pure energy and thought, some benevolent, others malevolent. They learned to communicate with these entities, to understand their alien perspectives, and to navigate the complex web of alliances and rivalries that existed in this chaotic realm. One entity, a being of pure light, warned them of the dangers that lay ahead. It told them of the heart of darkness, a place of ultimate entropy where the darkness was anchored to reality. It was a place of immense power, guarded by ancient and terrible forces. You must be careful, the entity warned. The darkness will test you, it will probe your deepest fears and desires. It will try to corrupt you, to turn you against each other. Only those with the purest of hearts and the strongest of wills can hope to survive. Yuna and Kubo listened carefully, their faces grim with determination. They knew the risks, the dangers that lay ahead. But they also knew what was at stake. They had come too far to turn back now. As they approached the heart of darkness, the interworldliness grew increasingly hostile. The chaotic energies intensified, the landscape became more twisted and distorted, and the entities they encountered became more malevolent. They faced trials that pushed them to their limits, testing their courage, their strength, and their very sanity. They battled hordes of shadowy creatures, navigated labyrinths that shifted and changed around them, and confronted illusions that blurred the line between reality and nightmare. One illusion forced them to confront their deepest doubts and insecurities. Yuna was tormented by visions of failure, of her inability to protect her people, of the darkness consuming everything she held dear. Kubo was plagued by visions of his own weakness, of his impulsiveness leading to disaster, of him betraying those he loved. They struggled to maintain their grip on reality, to hold on to their sense of self in the face of such overwhelming darkness. But they persevered, drawing strength from their bond, from their shared purpose, and from the memory of the Keeper's wisdom. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, they reached the heart of darkness. It was a place of utter desolation, a void where all light and energy were extinguished. In the center of this void was a swirling vortex of pure chaos, the anchor point of the darkness, the source of its corrupting influence. The vortex pulsed with a malevolent energy, a tangible manifestation of the darkness that threatened to consume the universe. It was a swirling mass of shadows and chaos, a place where reality itself seemed to unravel. As Yuna and Kubo approached, the vortex pulsed more intensely, its dark energy reaching out to them, probing their minds, testing their resolve. They felt a wave of nausea, a sense of utter wrongness, as if their very being was being violated. "Brace yourselves," Yuna said, her voice strained. "It's trying to get inside our heads." Kubo nodded, his face pale but determined. He focused his mind, drawing on the training he had received from the Keepers. He visualized the spheres, their harmonious energies flowing through him, creating a barrier against the encroaching darkness. Yuna did the same, her focus intense. She remembered the visions she had seen, the knowledge she had gained from the spheres. She focused on the power of creation, on the light and energy that flowed through all living things. Together, they projected a shield of pure energy, a shimmering sphere of light that surrounded them, protecting them from the darkness. It was a battle of wills, a clash between order and chaos, light and darkness. The vortex roared, its dark energy lashing out against their shield. They could feel its power, its relentless pressure, trying to find a weakness, an opening. But they held firm, their resolve unwavering. They knew that this was the final test, the ultimate confrontation. If they faltered, if they allowed the darkness to penetrate their defenses, all would be lost. But if they held strong, if they could harness the power of the spheres to reseal the vortex, they could save the universe from eternal darkness. With a surge of power, Yuna and Kubo channeled the energy of the spheres. They focused their intent, their will, and directed the combined force of their towards the vortex. The spheres responded, their light intensifying, their energy resonating in harmony. A wave of pure, unadulterated power erupted from them, a force that could reshape reality itself. The vortex recoiled, its swirling mass of shadows faltering in the face of such overwhelming light. It fought back, its dark energy lashing out with renewed ferocity, but the combined power of Yuna and Kubo, fueled by the spheres, was too strong. Slowly, inexorably, they began to push the darkness back, to force it to retreat. The vortex shrank, its swirling mass becoming smaller and smaller, its malevolent energy weakening with every passing moment. Finally, with one last effort, Yuna and Kubo unleashed the full power of the spheres. A blinding flash of light erupted from them, engulfing the vortex, banishing the darkness from the heart of interworldliness. The vortex was gone, its corrupting influence sealed away once more. The interworldliness, no longer a realm of pure chaos, began to stabilize, its energies flowing in a more harmonious pattern. Yuna and Kubo stood in the center of the void, exhausted but triumphant. They had faced the darkness and prevailed. They had saved the universe from destruction. The light faded, and the interworldliness fell silent, the chaotic energies subsiding into a gentle hum. Yuna and Kubo stood in the aftermath of the battle, their bodies aching with exhaustion, but their hearts filled with a profound sense of peace. They had done it. They had faced the darkness and emerged victorious. The universe was safe, the balance restored. As they looked around, they saw that the interworldliness was slowly transforming. The twisted landscapes were smoothing out, the bizarre geometries resolving into more natural forms. The oppressive darkness was receding, replaced by a soft, ethereal glow. The keepers spoke to them, their voices filled with gratitude and awe. "You have done well, children," they said. "You have shown courage and strength beyond measure. You have proven yourselves worthy of the spheres." They explained that with the darkness gone, the interworldliness was no longer a realm of chaos, but a bridge between worlds, a place where different realities could intersect and interact in harmony. "But what will happen to us?" Yuna asked. "What is our purpose now?" The keepers revealed that Yuna and Kubo were now the guardians of the interworldliness, the protectors of the balance between worlds. They were to be the ones who would ensure that the darkness never returned, that the different realities remained in harmony. It was a daunting task, a responsibility that would last a lifetime. But Yuna and Kubo accepted it without hesitation. They had come to understand the interconnectedness of all things, the delicate balance that held the universe together. They knew that they had a vital role to play in maintaining that balance. And so, they remained in the interworldliness, their lives forever changed by their journey. They explored the different realities, learning their secrets, forging alliances, and resolving conflicts. They became wise and powerful, their names whispered with reverence throughout the cosmos. They never forgot their home, the lush jungle world where they had grown up. They often returned there, to visit the Stone Guardian, to remember their humble beginnings. And they always carried with them the memory of the keepers, the ancient voices that had guided them on their path. Years passed, and Yuna and Kubo became legends, their story told and retold across countless worlds. They were the guardians of the interworldliness, the heroes who had saved the universe from darkness. And their legacy lived on, inspiring others to embrace courage, wisdom, and the interconnectedness of all things.